Hello viewers and welcome back to McElroy's Motors, home of the weird, the boring, the projects, and the adventures. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As you guys have known for the last 10 or so months, this car right here, my 1997 Saturn SL1, has been my daily driver. But unfortunately I had to sell my dream car just to buy this thing, and it was a 1984 Trabant 601S that I exported from Hungary. Now granted, I did tell you guys how I took delivery of it a second time, but I did not tell you guys the story of how I was able to buy it on eBay, ship it from Hungary to Florida, and then get it back home to Ohio. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you that story because it is simply remarkable and definitely an achievement in itself. Time now to cue the music. Now, my longtime fans may remember this clip of when I was down in Washington, D.C., experiencing Trabants for the very first time at the International Spy Museum. It was one of the happiest days of my life. In fact, that day made me go from wanting a Trabant in my life to the point I had to get one, no questions asked. And I was just in complete and utter shock by how tiny they were, how adorable they were, and above all else, just the overall history behind these cars that is just simply baffling to think about this day and age. But that being said though, when I got back to my house later on that year, I was not sure even if I could actually get one. But between November of 2017 and June of 2018, I eventually saved up enough money to buy one. My source of employment was at a company called LMT Mercer Group. They were the largest deck, rail, and fence components manufacturer in the US and Canada. My job there was simply to program the robotics to aid with manufacturing of the parts made out of polyvinyl chloride and other recyclable resins. It was overall a very interesting job, but there were one or two caveats. For one thing, overtime was considered against company policy, and the pay itself was ridiculously low despite my expertise. I was bringing home about $650 every 2 weeks. Like I said before, I bought my Trabant off eBay, and when I did, the buy now price, which was roughly $6,500, included shipping to one of 3 US ports. There was Baltimore, Maryland, New York City, or Miami, Florida. Now, having never been through New York City, that was out of the question because I heard it is completely scary, being not a big fan of big city life myself, so that was out of the question despite me having some Trabant owner friends there. The second option was Baltimore, Maryland, and I can confirm to you that Baltimore can be a little sketchy late at night, so that was out of the question. So that left me with a third and final option, and that was Miami, Florida. So I shipped my Trabant all the way to Miami, not knowing if I was going to get some weird, unusual classic car that nobody knows what it is, or was I buying $6,000 of an illegal substance here in the United States? I didn't know. But it came as a complete surprise to me when I received the email in August of 2018 saying, hey, your car has arrived at the shipping port. So I guess I did buy myself a car. But the question was, how in the heck was I going to get myself from Northeast Ohio down to Florida to go pick up a car that nobody knows what it is? So my stepfather at the time drove me up to Cleveland Hopkins Airport in his 2005 Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck. Bear in mind it was rusted, had no brakes, and I could see through the floor, but we made it to the airport just fine, and I flew from Cleveland all the way down to Miami and made it there in roughly 3 hours. I got to the shipping port and showed them my ID and all that stuff, and I got to see my car for the very first time since I took ownership of it officially after I bought it off eBay. Now the question though was, how in the heck was I going to get this thing home? Because all the paperwork was in Hungarian, so it was not easy. Plus I don't speak Hungarian, despite me being able to speak a little German. It was just not a good fit. So what I had to do is I had to drive the Trabant in 95-degree weather without brakes, exterior lights, or anything to the nearest DMV to get a temp tag, and then set off from Miami all the way back to Hartville, Ohio, where I was staying at. And here's how that story wound up. Having left the Miami DMV, I then stopped at a auto parts store to pick up some brake fluid as well as a bunch of two-stroke oil that I would need to mix in with the fuel during my long trip back home. The Trabant only had a top speed of 62 miles an hour, and I decided to take some back roads just to be better safe than sorry. Thinking it would take me roughly 9 to 10 hours to get from Miami to Florida's capital city of Tallahassee, I set off, and came as a complete surprise because it took me 9 hours just to get to Orlando. So I stopped in Orlando for the night and then continued on around 5 in the morning to Tallahassee, where I stayed an extra night. Because of my Trabant's braking issues, I did not want to risk getting out of the car and then having it roll on its own, basically into a nearest tree or another car or even a pedestrian. So during the time I stopped for the nights, I would sleep in the car. Sleeping in my East German car in Florida was simply one of the most miserable things I had ever lived to tell the tale about. It was hot, it was sweaty, it was uncomfortable, and it just was not great. But I lived to tell the tale, and if you are wondering if I did chalk the wheels despite the Trabant's braking issue, the answer to that is, of course I did. The journey through Florida, though very boring, was made better by driving this East German wonder around, and honestly I felt like that episode of Top Gear where they drove from Miami all the way to New Orleans in $1,000 clunkers. It definitely brought back some memories for me as a child watching that episode. But despite having to replace the spark plugs 3 times in my 2-stroke car in the Sunshine State, the whole journey through Florida was pretty average. It was nothing crazy, nothing eventful. It was just overall a sweet journey up into Alabama. I left Tallahassee around 6:45 the following morning and embarked on another 8-hour backroad journey through the proud state of Alabama. I didn't think much of it, but I knew with the whole episode of Top Gear, I just had to keep my mind that controversy was not something I wanted to spark. And everything seemed fine until I reached the city of Montgomery, and that's where I hit trouble. Because the Trabant is a 2-stroke car with no oil injecting system or indeed a fuel pump, to put fuel in a Trabant you have to pop the hood and insert fuel and oil mix into a tank that's located above and behind its engine. It's overall very simple, but it definitely causes people to look at you a time or two with deep concern. So while I was getting fuel for it in Montgomery, Alabama, I was just putting the gas nozzle underneath the hood, pull the trigger, and next thing I know, he comes out running. By he, I mean the fuel station clerk. With a fire extinguisher in hand, it says, "Stop! You don't know what you're doing! What the fuck do you think you're doing?" He just starts swearing at me. And I was completely speechless. I told him I was just putting gas in my car. He's like, "No, you're not. You're going to set your car on fire. You're freaking crazy." He goes ballistic. And then I said to him, "Sir, the gas tank's right there." He's like, "I don't want to hear it. You're freaking nuts. You should get away from my gas store as soon as you possibly can." Oh, there's the gas tank, and walked off. And thinking that was the end of my troubles, I closed up the gas tank, closed the hood, and pushed the Trabant from the gas pump to the storefront parking lot, where I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give myself something to drink, maybe a little snack. And that's when some big American Yanks come up next to me in a big Dodge Ram, and they ask me, "Holy hell, are you a communist?" And I looked at him dead in the face and I said to him, "Oh yeah, I am the communist. I'm just going to the KGB right now. You get in the back of my car, sit down, shut up." And the look on their face was absolutely phenomenal. It was priceless. They looked at me like I was going to shoot them or something. Typical rednecks, scared of the communists. And that's when I said to them, "I'm just kidding. I'm not a communist." And they said to me, "Are you sure about that, young man?" And that's why I responded by simply saying, "Nein." And that's when they just walked away in complete and utter shock. It was beautiful. If you guys recall back when I took Summer and myself from here in Northeast Ohio down to Nashville, Tennessee, you'll note that it took us roughly 3 days to get there because we made so many stops, so many bathroom breaks, and so on and so forth, to the point where we were really not in a hurry to get down to Nashville. But on a good day, driving from Akron, Ohio to Nashville, Tennessee could literally take about 8 to 10 hours. But for me, in the Trabant, driving it from the Alabama-Tennessee border all the way back home to my home in Hartville, Ohio, took the next 3 days. And it was not without eventuality, because when I got to the North Canton DMV in North Canton, Ohio, the clerk asked me for the car's VIN. And here's how that went. "I need your vehicle's VIN, please." "Certainly, sir. It is 336-8863. "No, sir. I need your car's VIN, not your phone number." "Nice try, though." "That is the VIN." "No, it's your phone number." "It is not my phone number. Did I include an area code?" "No, I didn't. It is my car's VIN."
So after arguing with the DMV clerk for about 45 minutes to an hour, he eventually gets the supervisor. The supervisor comes out, sees the car's VIN, able to realize that that is completely authentic and completely original to the car, much to the surprise of me. It didn't take long at all after that, and hey presto, I had a Trabant with Ohio plates on it after all. And that is the story of how I got my Trabant from Hungary to Florida and then back home to Ohio with some fuss here and there. So if you like this video, feel free to like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribe to McElroy's Motors because I will have more videos coming along soon. Thank you so much for watching.